Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on the ins and outs of analyzing options in Barchart Excel. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to be here to learn about this amazing software. So just quickly, a little bit about me. I'm Gavin McMaster. I'm the founder of Options Trading IQ. I'm a self-taught trader, been trading options since 2004 and teaching traders since 2010. Also have a master's in applied finance and investment. And you can follow me on Twitter, and I also write a column, an options column at Barchart almost every day. So some of you may already know who I am, but for those that don't, this is me, and I'll be presenting the webinar today. So before we start, just a quick disclaimer that decisions to buy, sell, hold, or trade in securities, commodities, and other investments involve risk and are best made based on the advice of qualified financial professionals. Any trading in securities or other investments involve a risk of substantial loss. The practice of day trading involves particularly high risks and can cause you to lose substantial sums of money. Before undertaking any trading program, you should consult a qualified financial professional. Please consider carefully whether such trading is suitable for you in light of your financial condition and ability to bear financial risks. Under no circumstances shall we be liable for any loss or damage you or anyone else incurs as a result of any trading or investment activity that you or anyone else engages in based on the information or material you receive through barchart.com or our services. And just to note that everything discussed today is general in nature and does not take into account your personal circumstances. So let's talk about our schedule for today. So there's some really cool additions to Barchart for Excel that have been added, which is real-time equity options data. So we're going to take a look at that. I'll give you a quick walkthrough of the software, and then we'll get into some of the option stuff. We'll look at how to access historical options data. We'll talk about loading option screeners, creating option lists, and analyzing volatility. That's one of my favorite features as well in Barchart. And we'll show you how you can sign up for a free no credit card required trial at barchart.com/Excel. Okay, so let's go over to our Barchart for Excel. We've got our Barchart tab over here on the right, and we've got all our functions that we can do in the top section here. So first, I'll just give you a quick walkthrough of how the software works generally. So if we want to add some quotes, we can choose our toggle from the top here. That brings up this modal window. This is pretty common across all the functions that you see in the top here. So similar sort of functionality where we can search in the top here. We can search for a particular stock. We can double click to add that over to the right, or we could go into the indices and we could find our Dow Jones index. We can add that. We can go here, we can go by indexes and we can add all the Dow Jones stocks. And then we've also got ETFs, futures, FX, and another cool thing that I found is some of the economic data that you can bring in as well, if you're interested in that. So very cool things that you can bring in. Let's bring in a few more. Microsoft and Tesla. So those are our quotes that we're going to bring in. And then over on the bottom here, we've got all our columns. We can drag these to reorder them. So very, very simple. We can tick box to remove any that we don't want to see. And under edit fields, we can come in here and search for anything we want, or we can look through any parameters that are available for our column headings. So that's pretty standard across all of the functions in the top ribbon. And we're just tick boxing whichever ones we want to include. Once we insert those, you can see it comes in pretty quickly. We've got all our column headings that we've selected, and this data is all updating in real time. So as well as having live data, we can bring in historical stock information. So this could be helpful for back testing. We can bring in historical options data as well, which I'm going to show you shortly. So that's all available through the history function. So again, choose your stock, add it over to the window here, and then we can choose the date range of how far back we want to bring in our historical information. So that's fairly straightforward. We've got stock lists that we can bring in. Again, this is all updating in real time. So for example, we could bring in the top 100 stocks. We've got all different, all the usual things that you'd expect at barchart.com, and we can bring in these lists. Very, very easy, volume leaders, indices, all that sort of stuff. We can also bring in option lists. So for example, I think this one was the most active options. So I'm going to add these back in. I'll just show you how to do this. If we go up to options, and we've got our main option lists here. So for example, most active options, let's just get the top 50. And again, we can have lots of different columns. We've now got some of our options related columns, IV rank, volatility. We could probably add IV percentile. Lots of different IV percentile columns that we can add. And if we insert that, you'll see that data comes in pretty quickly. So really, really simple, great way to monitor the market. And we've got all our usual names at the top here. Now, we can also bring in our option chain. So this is the awesome functionality that we've got here where we're looking at an Apple option chain. So we've got sort of at the money, out of the money calls, and we can see we've got delta, vega, theta, and gamma, and these are all updating in real time, which is really, really cool. And we've got our puts over here on the right. So we could start to build out some pretty impressive spreadsheets based on this data and some of our exposures and monitor everything within Excel. We can build out charts. I'm sure there's people on the webinar today who are better with Excel than I am. Might be able to build out some pretty amazing spreadsheets with this data. One use that I was looking at is, let's say we've sold this 187 put, and I want to monitor this one in case the delta gets to say 25. I could add some conditional formatting, for example. And if the sell value is less than negative 25, or it's going to be negative 0.25, I might want that to go red, for example. So now, if that gets to that level that I'm looking at where I might need to adjust that particular option or close it out, that's going to go red. So many, many cool things you can do. In terms of bringing in the option chains, we'll go back to our bar chart tab. We'll go option prices. Look at good old Apple again. And we're going to do equity options. Let's say we can choose our expiration. We could bring them all in, which would be a huge amount of data, so I won't do that. But we could look at just the monthlies. And we'll do the 10 strikes around that, the money. We can change that parameter if we want. A few other parameters there as well. And add those in. Now the beauty is the next day when I come to open this spreadsheet, this will all be updating for me and then updating as the market's moving in real time as well. Just remove those. The other thing you can do as a bit of a shortcut is I've just created this small table down here. rather than going through the process of adding the options here, if I know I've got, let's say, an Apple 175 put, I can just change the formula right here in Excel, and I'll just hit F2 and enter, and that will all update. So I can really quickly and easily build out my portfolio that I've got across lots of different options, and I'm getting all my data coming in. I could then say, this is my position. Let's say I've got one of those, and I'm short one of those. I can start to work out, or let's say I can do things like position delta. So it's going to be the delta of the strike times the position, times 100 actually, because and that's my position delta, or my notional exposure to Apple stock. And I could build that out across my whole portfolio. So that's quite helpful. Really, really great functionality. As I said, there's probably some really amazing things that you can build out here. The possibilities are kind of endless. When you've got this data coming into Excel, you've got all the amazing things that you can do in Excel with all the data that's being brought in through Barchart. So that's live data. We can also bring in historical option prices. Again, could be useful if we're doing some back testing. We can see here we've got some historical information on the S&P 500 or the SPY options, the 420 calls going back through time. What was the volume each day? What was the closing price? How has the delta changed over time? And we've got the puts over here as well. So that could be really helpful for people if you want to do a bit of back testing or analyze any data that you want to look at. So for example, if we bring in SPY and we go to options, we can bring in live data for current open options, or we could choose this one and look at the expired options. And there's just a huge amount of data here that you can go through. So for example, the 2023 options, if I scroll down, we were looking here at the May 19th expiry. We could bring in, say, the June expiration as well. The monthly, you can see you've got all your weekly ones here. We can double click on the left, or we could sort of drag over. Actually, double clicking. Oh, we've got to choose the strikes first. So once we click into that, the strikes will come in. We'll go down. We'll just say the 420 calls and puts again. We'll highlight those, and we can drag them over. Again, we can choose all our different columns as well. Lots of different fields that we can bring in related to options. And again, we choose our date range. And we'll say those are the June options, and we'll just bring in a few weeks in April and take a look at that data. So as you can see, very quick and easy to bring in all this historical data, and lots of cool things that you might be able to do there with that. We can bring in time and sales data as well, which could be really helpful if there's some unusual option activity. So we might have seen when we're doing our option list, we might have brought in unusual option activity. This was one that I spotted from yesterday in Morgan Stanley. So then I wanted to drill further into why there was such large volume in this February 87.50 call. So if we go to history, options, It was the Feb. And it was the 87.50 call. And if I change that from daily to top of book, that's going to give us our time and sales data. And I'll just choose for November the 20th and insert. So that's basically what I've just replicated here, what we already had. But then what I can do is scroll down through this volume column and see if I can see when that large trade occurred, or if there was any particular large trades, or if it was just a lot of little trades. Here we can see huge volume traded at about 118, and it was traded at 102, which is close to the ask price. So that to me indicates that that was a purchase, a buy of that particular call option. So you can potentially follow that large trader if you think that's a bullish trade. The other thing, when there's large volume like this, the market makers are on the opposite side of this, so they're having to sell that call option, which leaves them with negative delta. They then have to delta hedge that by buying the underlying stock, so that can be another further driver to push the price of the stock higher. In terms of our options screeners, let's remove this and we can go again. If we come into our screeners, we've got our stock screeners that we can bring in. We've got option screeners, ETF screeners. Now you can use the standard bar chart screeners, unusual options, high IV, large percentage change in IV, or you can have your own save screeners from barchart.com that you might like to use. So this was the one that I was looking at, where there's a high volume to open interest ratio for any of the main stocks. So you can just separate them here with a comma. If there was high volume in those out of the money options, which could indicate, a large institution making a big bet that the stock's going to make a big move. So then we can kind of just scroll through and see, listed in alphabetical order, there's a bit of action in the Apple 110 puts, lots of action in AMD, Amazon, BA. I might scroll through this, see if there's huge volume compared to open interest. So here, there's nothing really jumping out at me in this one. Maybe this one reasonably high compared to the open interest. And we can scan through our volume to open interest ratio as well. So here's one, it wasn't a huge amount of volume, but compared to the open interest, it was quite high. And then I might take some of that information and then drill down further into that particular strike using the time and sales data, and see if I might be able to gain some insights into what was happening underneath the surface with that particular stock. So that's the option screener. The stock screener as well, similar idea. I've got particular screeners that I use. Then there's the all the standard bar chart screeners. You can bring those in, and then those are all going to be available in Excel, and you can build those out into different spreadsheets, things like that. So I've just got a couple of screeners here. These were some stocks with high IV that don't have earnings. I've got a 50-day moving average crossover screener, so that could be quite helpful as well. We're kind of focusing on options, so I won't go too much into detail on some of the stock screeners. But this is one of my favorite features of Barchart Excel, along with the real-time option data that we now have. We can add implied volatility charts for various stocks. And I'm not aware of any other platform that will allow you to show multiple IV charts for underlying stocks. So previously I'd have to go to my broker, look up an IV chart for Apple, have a look at it, then I'd switch to Microsoft, have a look at that. Whereas here what I've done is built out a spreadsheet where I can scroll through IV charts for multiple stocks really, really quickly. I can see at the moment we've got the orange line is the implied volatility and the blue line is the historical volatility. I can see at the moment Apple volatility is below 20. That's very, very low volatility for Apple over the past couple of years. It's pretty much the lowest volatility we've seen. So potentially not a great time to be selling options in Apple because they're kind of cheap at the moment. It might be better to look at option buying strategies. We've got Microsoft, Tesla, Nvidia. Nvidia volatility has been up because of the earnings coming up after hours. So to add an IV chart, we go up here to volatility. Choose our stock. I can add the historical volatility as well if I want to see that. We're just using the implied volatility index, and I'm just using 30-day parameter, and then I'm going to turn off the volume, the option volume, and it makes the chart a little bit noisy, so I'm going to turn that off. That brings in our data, and there's our Apple IV chart. So really, really simple, and you can build that out so that you've got multiple on the one tab, and you can quickly and easily monitor the IV of all your favorite stocks all in one place. Another function that I like to use is the max pane. So some of these are templates that you can download on barchart.com as well. So there's a few really good templates there that you can check out and lots of tutorials as well. All we need to do is update these two figures or data points here. So this is showing Apple for the December expiration date, and it's showing that the max pain level is at 175. And we've got all the data here, and we can kind of see it graphically as well, that around 175 is when most of the options are going to expire with the least amount of value. We could just quickly change that to Tesla, and we can have a look at the max pain level for Tesla for December 15th. And we can see that's at about the 230 level, and we can see that graphically as well, right down there, where the lowest point is, where those options are going to have the lowest amount of value, which is basically, what the market makers want when they're selling options. They want to push the price of the stock to that sort of level where the options are going to have the least amount of value. Another really cool thing that we can do is look at the term structure of individual stocks. So again, not aware of any other platform that will really allow you to do this, particularly all in the one place. So we'll choose Apple again, and this time we want to look at the term structure, and we'll choose our expirations. We'll just look at all and insert, and we can see there's our term structure for Apple, sitting in a bit of contango at the moment. Having some issues with my mouse there, sorry. I don't know why that's not expanding. That's my issue, I think. But in any case, we can do that. Then we'll look at another one. Term structure, choose our expiration. Oh, I've got to double click. There we go. There's our Tesla term structure. And I can arrange these all so they're side by side or however you like to view it. We'll look at another one. I think Adobe's got earnings coming up shortly, so we'll likely see a slightly different structure. So we can see some high vol there in Adobe around that December 15th strike, which is probably when there's going to be earnings. So we can look at the term structure of each individual stock and potentially develop trading strategies around that. And the last thing is the volatility smile or curve. And we can see here Tesla, we're looking at the implied volatility of various strikes. So the at the money options in the middle, and then as we go further out of the money up to the 5 delta calls, we're looking at high volatility and then high volatility in the out of the money puts as well. So we can easily scroll through and see this for a number of stocks. We might spot something where there's some overpricing in some of the out of the money puts. We're noticing that maybe the curve in Apple is higher than it normally is. That could provide some opportunities as well, potentially. So for an IV curve, very similar. And we'll just choose the IV curve. And I think that's all we need to do. And there we go there. So really simple and easy to add those in. But really the best piece is this this real-time data that we're now getting. I love the fact that our Greeks are updating in real time. We can build out how much theta we're getting across our portfolio, what's our overall Vega exposure, gamma, etc. So very, very cool stuff. I hope you're going to be able to take advantage of that. And if you're building out any cool spreadsheets, let me know. Love to see them. Okay, so if there's any questions, happy to take those now. We've got one, where does the real-time options data come from? So Barchart sources the data from Opera, the Options Price Reporting Authority. This data comes from 16 different option exchanges across the US. If you want to subscribe, new subscribers can sign up at barchart.com/excel. And if you're a current premium user, you just need to contact support at barchart.com. They can upgrade your account. It's just an extra $5 a month for non-professional users and $40 per month for professionals. Are implied volatility and Greeks available in real time? So yes, when you've got your account enabled for real time Opera, the IV, and the Greeks, all your options data will stream in Barchart Excel. You can see that was updating every second or two. Does Barchart for Excel offer option trade data, time and sales? Yep, so we looked at that. Via the option drop-down menu, you can access both the tick and the best bid offer by selecting the time and sales. So if you need to go through that again, there'll be a replay of this webinar as well, so you can always rewatch the replay if there's any particular sections that you want to check out. Can you create valuation models with Barchart for Excel's Opera data? Yes. You can use any of your own templates. As I said, if you're building out anything cool, let me know. I'd love to see it. But you can use the volatility smile or strategy builder to start creating your own valuation tools with real-time option data. Again, there's some templates that you can find and other resources under barchart.com/excel. So there's some other sections that we didn't really go through in too much detail, but you can bring in your watch lists. So if you've got your own particular watch lists, you can bring those in, and also any portfolios that you've got on Barchart Excel, you can bring those in and then start getting all your data flowing in to your spreadsheet there as well. So pretty much anything that you can do on barchart.com, you can bring in to Barchart Excel. Are any other intraday aggregations supported for equity options? Yes, using both the history and chart icons, you can query and view the minute data for active and expired options. I can't remember if we looked at that, but if we go to historical options, our historical option tab, we were looking at the expired options here, the June ones, yeah. So we did cover that. So yeah, I think the data goes back pretty far. So again, to do that, choose your ticker, select options, just double click the expired options, and you can see we've got data going back here all the way back to 2016. Another question, are US equity index, S&P, VIX, NASDAQ options in real time too? So yes, they're all real time. So you could do obviously single stock options, but US index options as well, all available in real time. All right, well, thanks for attending the webinar. If you've got any further questions, just reach out to Barchart support or myself as well, happy to help. Hope you found the presentation useful and that you'll be able to make the most use of this powerful financial analysis tool. So it's quite cool. Like I said, if anyone's doing some cool spreadsheets with their options, happy to take a look at those. And accessing that real-time data, the possibilities are sort of endless. You've got all the power of Excel with real-time option data flowing in. So huge potential there for doing some cool things. So here's the details on the free trial. So get started at barchart.com/excel, 14-day trial. You don't need to put in a credit card or anything like that. And then $79.95 a month afterwards. Again, I think that's different if you're already a premium member. But make sure you at least go and check out the trial and have a play around. You might be able to do some really cool stuff that that I didn't show you today if you're a bit of an Excel whiz. All right, so thanks again for attending, giving up some of your precious time today. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and if you've got any questions, just reach out to the support team. But otherwise, enjoy the rest of your trading day and happy Thanksgiving for later in the week for all the US viewers.